This is a service boot in Horween's Colour 8 Shell Cordovan. Horween Shell Cordovan boots have been somewhat out of my league with a wide price range available, but mostly starting around US $800. So these are $650 and let's see what they're like. G'day, welcome back to Bootlosophy, and if you're new here, my name is Tech. I'm filming in Perth in Western Australia, the land of the traditional custodians, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation. Today I'm going to take a look at this pair of Horween Shell Cordovan boots, priced at around US $650, one of the cheapest that I've been able to find, and see what it's like quality-wise. We'll do that by looking at who makes it and the construction, and then check out care and other stuff. This pair is made by Indian brand BlkBrd. It's an Indian brand, and I'll put a link to their website below. For a little context, know that shoemaking in India goes back a long way, boosted by historical cultural exchanges and imported knowledge and practical experience. In the days of the British Raj, India's shoemaking industry grew fast in the late 19th century, with workshops making Oxfords and Derby boots and shoes for colonial officers and administrators. To do this, some English brands transferred part of their shoemaking heritage to India. Not just making English-style shoes and boots, Indian shoemakers soon developed their own, like the Jodhpur boot, originally developed in the city of Jodhpur for Indian polo players. A perfect example of the marriage between local demand and tradition with English design. The chukka boot was another example of needs and local innovation. As the 19th century turned into the 20th, and as commercial import and export became easier with steamships, Indian manufacturers, tired of just exporting tanned leather to English shoemakers, started to develop their own shoemaking craftsmanship whilst heavily influenced by English designs and English techniques like stitch down and Goodyear welting. As an aside, when I posted my unboxing video of these boots, someone commented, "India had a lot of Dutch settlers who taught them boot making. That's pretty much how it went." Mate, India was colonized by the English. Even today, it's part of the Commonwealth. And true, a small pocket like Goa, for example, was colonized by the Portuguese. The Dutch, however, colonized the Dutch East Indies, now known as Indonesia. The fact that Indies and India have the same four letters to start with do not make them the same. Maybe it's time to review some old geography and history school books, eh? Anyway, modern Indian brands like BlkBrd, Craft and Glory, and Bridlin are a continuation of this tradition, continuing to develop from the 20th century, where Indian factories became the manufacturer for a lot of Western brands moving into the 21st century, and continuing to leverage their ability to source leather and labor locally. In fact, many Northampton brands make a second, cheaper collection that's made in India. BlkBrd was founded by brothers Sandeep and Pradeep Parihar in the city of Agra as a made-to-order, direct-to-consumer brand. Their website's About Us page is very descriptive in market speak about what they do and their design philosophy, but I couldn't find out how long they've been around. They do say, though, that their craftsmen have over 25 years' experience in traditional shoemaking, but I suspect that's the length of experience, not the time the company has been around. But at the end of the day, it's the people who make the shoes that count. I'm interested that they state their philosophy as a mission to preserve shoemaking as a worthy trade and to promote the standards of Indian shoemaking and the craftsmen themselves by paying them better than industry standards. To that end, most of their shoes and boots are in fact hand welted. That's a form of Goodyear welting where instead of a canvas gemming being glued to the insole and used to stitch through to the welt, they actually carve a slot through the leather insole itself and stitch through that as the piece that attaches. It's very similar to how cowboy boots are made. Now, this is a much more laborious method than machine stitching in Goodyear welts and will last longer as the canvas gemming often becomes detached. But this boot is in fact constructed using the stitch down method, which I'll explain later on. The full name of this boot is the Rudiger service boot in Horween's Shell Cordovan color number 8. BlkBrd have an interesting way of naming their boots. I have their Luchador service boot and found that Luchador is the name of those Mexican wrestlers, you know, that they wear budgie smugglers and colorful masks. Now, Rudiger is actually a German man's name that means apparently brave warrior or brave spear. It is a 6-inch plain-toe service boot with a single-piece backstay, a low block heel made up of a leather stack and then a rubber top lift, and it's fitted with antiqued brass hardware. The last is actually very similar to Grant Stone's Leo last, with a slightly sharper almond-shaped toe. The profile shows the toe puff lifts the nose a little bit to relieve the otherwise very sleek look. The sleek shape lends itself to being paired with a suit. Now, I find this untreated Horween Color 8 is dark enough to go with any navy suit, but also light enough to go with a grey suit. Now, I say untreated because I have a pair of Alden Indies in Horween's Color 8 shell, but I understand Alden treats the surface and makes it a bit darker. This untreated Color 8 is really versatile and also goes well with, say, khaki chinos, a matching colored top like a maroon long sleeve polo, and a tan Harrington jacket. I think you can also go high-low smart casual in mid-wash jeans and a relaxed but smart work shirt, or even more casual in faded jeans and a white linen shirt. I find the burgundy Color 8 almost as versatile as, say, dark olive boots, as long as you stick to earth and neutral colors mainly. Let's turn to construction. These are stitched down construction boots. Now, I'll give you a brief rundown, but if you want to know more, go and see my video about the 4 main types of construction, the link of which should pop up there, and I'll also put a link to it down below. The boots are lasted and then the leather is flared out. The uppers are stitched down directly onto the midsole, then the rubber sole is glued on and a second stitch is put through the uppers, the midsole, as well as the outsole. In this case, the stitch down construction is made from it's only made in the front half of the boot. The back half uppers are in fact tucked inwards and glued and nailed to the insole and midsole before the leather heel stacks are built up and then topped by the rubber top lift. It gives you a very sleek and formal shape at the back. From the side, you will see the turned out uppers at the top, which sticks out looking like a welt when it's attached to the midsole. And then the next layer is the rubber outsole. Now, the outsole is a studded rubber outsole called the Eaton sole from Italian company Vibram. It's a copy of the day-night studded outsole with the studs sitting in a little pool, a recessed pool, so that while there's grip, the mud or dirt can be easily knocked off rather than get caught in the studs. Inside the boot is a leather insole, and between the insole and the midsole is a steel shank that's inserted in the heel area and up to the ball of the foot to give arch support and rigidity. I don't believe there's a cork layer, but inside the boot there is a glued-in 3/4 leather sock liner with a little foam padding underneath the heel. The boot comes with an extra removable insole made of foam and topped with leather, but I haven't put it in. It's for a little extra squish if you want, or to bulk it up a little if the volume is a bit too much for you. The front of the boot is lined with leather, as is the heel area, a piece that mirrors the backstay on the inside. But the rest of the shaft is unlined and is just the raw side of the shell. And deep inside one of the boots, there's a partly visible Horween seal. Really cool. The tongue is semi-gusseted up to the 4th eyelet, but interestingly, the tongue is not shell, but just a Color 8 dyed leather, which has a pull-up and smells like Chrome Excel, but I'm not sure. Although the top of the shaft has a stitch there, it does not have a reinforcing second piece of leather on the inside. The hardware is antique brass. I don't think anything special, but they are backed with smooth washers, so that is always a plus. The stitching overall is very good. The 2+1 stitch on the quarters is very neat, very small stitches and clean and precise. The double stitch on the backstay and the single stitch at the collar, they're all very precise and so very close to the edge. Talking about being close to the edge, Another comment from the unboxing was that the stitch down stitches were too close to the edge. You know, I'm looking at this and I don't agree. Viberg stitches are between 2 to 3 millimeters closer to the edge than these. If you compare them to P&W work boots like my NYX Overlander, for example, yeah, those do have stitches really far in off the edge. But then again, those have something like 4 stitches per inch, while these are closer to 6 or 7, maybe even 8. Horses for courses. Overall, I think this is a really well put together boot. As for Leathercare, I am so new to Shell Cordovan that I'm really not going to say anything, but I will refer you to better experts. First, in an episode of the Full Grain podcast, Phil Callis and Nick Horween say that they really think that it only needs brushing and maybe a few drops of water. I think Nick Horween said somewhere to brush it for as long as you can, keep brushing it until your arm is about ready to fall off, and then brush it for another 10 minutes. Phil Callis said he spritzes a bit of water on the brush and then brushes it. Shell Veg is another YouTube channel that has a lot of expert experience in Shell Cordovan, so go check out his channel on caring for Shell Cordovan. And another channel with great information is the Elegant Oxford. I did condition this straight after my unboxing video because when I walked around in that video, the vamp showed a bit of white starting to streak, which I surmised to be dryness from the sea container journey from Chicago to India. I put a little smear of Saphir Cordovan cream in color 8, and it seemed to take it in and fix it. In terms of sizing, as befits a previously English colony, not Dutch, they use the UK convention for sizing. But their sizing drop-down menu, when you choose what you want on the website, they show sizes in European, UK, and US, which is very helpful. Again, like most UK convention-sized shoemakers, they size their footwear true to size. So my true UK size is 7.5, or the US equivalent is 8.5, one number up. But since they don't show half sizes, I contacted them and they were able to make this in UK 7.5. They don't seem to have wide widths, but I suggest you contact them if you have wide feet. In that true size for me, these fit me very well, not too snug at all, and in fact really nicely around my slightly wider right foot where I often get a hot spot at the knuckle of the big toe. Now, while many Americans may see and fear this almond-shaped toe, the last seems to be properly designed so as not to pinch or squeeze any toe, probably extending the length a little bit. It forms closely to your anatomical shape without squeezing. In terms of comfort, these are very comfortable. The uppers are just right. There's just enough padding under the heel and under the arch to help with arch support. And the Vibram Eton is a very forgiving sole for shock absorption, probably better than Day-Night. So to summarize, I'm finding it very hard to find faults with this boot. At around US $600, it compares well with Grant Stone's Shell offerings of around $800 US, and Alden's certainly at nearly $1,000 US. Carmina Shell Cordovan boots are over $1,000 US. Meermin are cheaper, just over $400, but their Shell Cordovan is not from Horween, and in fact on the website they show as undisclosed exclusive tannery, whatever that is. I don't think the quality of this is different from Grant Stone at all, particularly the finishing, which is not surprising assuming labor and overheads in China are not dissimilar to India. And don't forget, these are hand-lasted and the stitch down is hand-stitched. If there is a con, it's the front of house service from the brand. The Goodyear Welt subreddit is full of comments about being ghosted and broken delivery date promises. I have experienced similar, to be honest. You know, I always tell my clients that if you have bad news, you have to get out there first and don't wait to be found out. And be truthful about it when you tell them. If supply becomes an issue, send a message telling the customer and giving them a realistic final date. In my real life work as a management consultant, I have a number of Southeast Asian clients. I find Asian businesses hate to disappoint, so they either hide from criticism, ghosting, or they make promises that are over-optimistic, and sometimes they tell untruths of the "my dog ate my homework" variety. If I were these Asian bootmakers, and there's all of them I include, If they want to add credibility to the reputation that they're already building, I would hire a dedicated customer service rep who's on top of production, who underpromises and overdelivers, and keeps customers informed before they inquire about late deliveries. It can't be that expensive. Anyway, take a look at BlkBrd, even if you're not into Shell Cordovan. I think the quality is pretty damn good. They do have an extensive, impressive range of models of both shoes and boots, and you can have cheaper leathers as well as good names and tanneries. And as they are a made-to-order brand, you can even contact them and have some options changed. On balance, I like the quality of their product. More pros than cons qualitatively. Okay, so that's it. I hope you enjoyed that video. Help me out by clicking on like and teaching the algorithm to show you what types of videos that you would like to see on your feed. You might now want to go and see my review of my old and indies in Shell Cordovan. Otherwise, I'm back here next week. Take care out there and see you again soon.